Whether you want more innovation more easily, you're feeling burnt out or overwhelmed, or you simply know that something isn't quite the way you know it can be, you are not alone. I hear the same from leaders every day. On Uncommon Leadership, we explore aligning personal fulfillment with business success, creating authentic teams, and cultivating the resilience, adaptability, and ease necessary to move beyond simply surviving today's challenges into thriving. I'm Michael Hunter with Uncommon Teams, and today we will uncover fresh insights into what it means to lead today. Joining me is Dr. Alfredo Borodowski. Alfredo is an international keynote speaker, consultant, and author specializing in positive psychology, peak performance, and resilience. Known as the optometrist of strengths, he helps leaders and organizations transform toxic cultures into thriving environments of growth and engagement. He has worked with companies like Motorola, major law firms, and over 50 nonprofit organizations, bringing clarity, purpose, and measurable results to leaders navigating change. Welcome, Alfredo.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be with you and with your audience to share some wisdom, maybe.
I am sure we will get an abundance of that. When did you first recognize that integrating your whole self and bringing that into everything that you do might be a valuable approach?
I have a story. I think all of us have a story. Mine may be a little bit more interesting in terms of a crisis and redemption. Before I became a consultant, or as I was a consultant, I was a rabbi for 30 years. And I was a rabbi of one of the most prestigious congregations in Westchester, New York. I had as congregants CEOs of major companies like MetLife and Prime Media. And I had a lot of Wall Street hedge fund managers, and I had top lawyers from the top firms in Manhattan. I had an office in Westchester. I had an office facing Central Park. Coming from Argentina, Buenos Aires, middle class, sitting at my office facing Central Park, putting my feet on my desk with a cup of coffee, looking through the window. I made it. I really made it. And then I never thought about positivity or positive psychology. Why? I was it. I was living it until everything disappeared in an instant. The morning of June 19th, 2013, when I was arrested for impersonating a police officer. And I was in the town of Mamaroneck. And a few months before that, a congregant of mine called me to the side and said, "Rabbi, I have something special for you." He opened his hand and he had a small replica of his badge. And he said, "This is for my closest friends. And with this, you will have no problems." And then, Michael, that's when the problems began.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, those shields and those cards should be all illegal. What are they for, if not for getting away with breaking the law? We're supposed to be all the same under the law unless you're friend and family of a police person. Then what happened? The day after he gave it to me, I crossed a stop sign. I was late for a meeting. Police came after me. They stopped me. I showed the badge, and they basically smiled and said, "Go." And at that point, I said, "Wow, I am part of the club here." And I began patrolling the highways of New York and showing people the badge and telling how to drive. Now, what happened to me also is that I was having mania. I have an attack of mania for a couple of months. And I went to my psychiatrist, who didn't know me well yet, was, I think, the second time. And because manic people love their mania, Michael. We get energy, creativity, we don't sleep and work all night long. Then I lied. And I said to him I was depressed. And I was very convincing. Then he gave me an depressant. Then I was with mania, the wrong medication, and a badge. And that's when I unleashed and began patrolling the streets until one morning, that morning of June 19th, I showed it to a young lady and she made a phone call. And immediately later, I had 3 patrols behind me. Now, a couple of months after that, I looked at the restraining order she had against me and I Googled her. And I looked at the picture and I almost fell off the chair. She was getting married. And I looked close to the picture. Who was she getting married to? The policeman that arrested me. Okay, of all people. Then they took me to court. They accused me a felony, impersonating a police officer. And because I was a rabbi of a prestigious congregation, it went viral. And the press made a circus out of me. And they gave me a name, the Road Rage Rabbi. And it became an international sensation. It was on front pages of newspapers from Ireland to Japan. Now, again, I did wrong, very wrong, but I didn't touch anybody. I wasn't violent. But, a rabbi from Westchester impersonating a police officer, the things I read that I was a terrorist, that I was, and I went into deep depression. I was hospitalized. And during that first hospitalization, I was diagnosed bipolar, which I didn't know until that point. Then I was released from the hospital. I was fired from my job. I was on the news. My friends stopped talking to me. And I went again into deep depression, back to the hospital. And when I went out of the hospital for 8 months, as the court cases were going on, I was completely and absolutely depressed on a couch, on a fetal position, in complete darkness and obscurity, until one morning, don't ask me how, why, I felt an energy. And I stood up from the couch and I walked upstairs to my study, and on the top of my desk, I found something that, again, I am not sure how it got there. I had a yellow folder. I opened it and I read the results of a positive psychology test I had taken a few months before. And I read my top 5 strengths: creativity, love of learning, curiosity, perseverance and bravery. And something turned on within me. I said, Alfredo, you forgot who you are. And a month later, I was back to school, became a social worker, did great with depression, with court cases, did great. And after I finished social work school, I said, every person has the right, I would say the obligation, of knowing the top 5 strengths of positive psychology. They are so powerful, and people should not go through life without them. And that's how I've been doing consulting before, but that's how I committed myself to this work fully.
You're right. That is a story. Well, yes and no. That is a story at another level from other guests I've had on. And it's also not. I've had several other guests who have gone through similar depths. One was arrested in prison for several years, several that have had similar depths of depression, bottoms out. In the everyone else, the rest of us, we have probably had, we've definitely had times which felt similarly deep, even if other people might not have said that they were as extreme. The strength that you discovered you had that brought you back to who you are, what was it about those that spoke to you that day when you went up to your study and opened that yellow folder and read those?
You know, when I began studying the strengths, what is called character strengths of positive psychology, there are 24 of them, which are universal. They were found in every culture through history and geography. Some of them are curiosity, as I mentioned, humor, leadership, spirituality, appreciation of beauty and excellence, forgiveness, humility, gratitude. Then all of us have all of them. But we feel authentic, motivated, and affirmed through the top five. And what I discovered is that 7 out of 10 people are unaware of the top strengths. There is an epidemic of strengths blindness. And we know from studies, because this is all science, I work with science, with the science of positive psychology through experiments by the best psychological labs. If you know your strengths, just by knowing them, you have the capacity to flourish 9 times more. And if you execute them, apply them, you have the capacity of flourishing 18 times more. Which means that 7 out of 10 people average are going through life 9 times below what they could just by not knowing who they are. And that's crazy. Okay, imagine just by knowing. It takes, I will explain how, but it's so easy to obtain your top results. And a person can go through life without knowing them. It's not good. It's not that should end.
Yeah, I agree. I have, I say that whoever we are, the world is clamoring to have us in their lives. And if we don't know our strengths, then we're missing a key component of why they want us.
Right.
When I did Strengths Finders and Myers-Briggs and the plethora of other personality assessments that I've done, it was this idea that we could quantify squishy aspects of who we are and have a objective view of this is what I'm good at. This is what drives me. This is what is going to light me up. It really blew my mind. So I hadn't thought of it that way before. People had said, oh, think about what you love and focus on that, or sentiments along those lines. But that's a lot different than doing an assessment that's been proven through statistics and getting this objective answer saying, these are things that are really going to light you up.
Well, I mean, look, you need to use an instrument to guide you and to have the structures of how to articulate who you are. But at the end of the day, nobody knows yourself better than yourself. Okay? Then the instruments help you to clear out the distortions.
Yes.
Are psychologically designed to help go through the jungle of distortions.
Yeah.
But once that's done, nobody knows yourself better than yourself. In fact, I use the instruments to confirm what I first explore with the person. The discussion always begins with a face to face, online exploration of who you are, and the instrument comes after that to confirm. Okay, and in between an instrument and what you think, feel, or experience about yourself, you come before the instrument. It happens to be after working decades with instruments that most of the time the instrument comes to confirm and to articulate what the person sees about him or herself. Eh, the character strengths of positive psychology are a little bit different from the usually strength finder that you mentioned, the Gallup Strength Finder. And I find this when I go to corporations, leaders, HR heads tell me, we've done already strengths. This is different. You know, the Gallup Strength Finder is usually about talent. Okay, what talent you have. Character strengths are not about talents, are about how you are at your best given your virtue, goodness, and the whole of the person. That's why it's called character strengths. And I think that's what is missing today in companies. We don't have a crisis of talent. We may have the most talented people in the world. The crisis today is about purpose. It's about meaning, about direction. There is rampant anxiety, uncertainty, and depression. That's what I see at companies, especially with the AI revolution. That's not about more talent. That's a different dimension. It's a dimension of the humanity, of the human component of the company. Then it's good to know your talents, and it's good to do other instruments like the Myers-Briggs, which I use, and the Gallup, which is very useful. But I think that what is lacking today is character strengths and purpose.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. It helps us know how to get where we're going. Like if I'm in California and I want to get to New York, I know it's east and north. I can kind of head that way. All I really need is a compass. Eventually, I'm going to hit the other coast. And if I have a map to use to help me get there, or I ask a lot of people along the way how to get the next bit, then I'll get there faster. I may find more things that interest me along the way. I may have a lot more fun on the trip. And I'll probably run out of gas less often because I can plan food, replenishing my car myself, letting people know where I am a lot more smoothly.
I mean, when you know your character strengths, your energy basically becomes endless because as you apply them, are they like a dynamo? When you apply them, you get more energized. We get into what is called in positive psychology flow. Okay, and flow is a state where time passes without us noticing it. We are completely involved in the activity. We are challenged by it and feel growing, but not overwhelmed. You know, it happens a lot at sports, okay, or when children are playing. It's called flow, and we perform best in those immersive activities where time flies. You know, what percentage of an average American at work a day is in flow state? 20%.
I'm a little surprised it's that high by accident.
Okay. Then 20% of the time we achieve flow in our work. And we know that flow is equal to performance. You know, I do peak performance work. Then 80% of the time is used in activities that we are not concentrating, we are bored, we're distracted, you know, anything that you can think about that is outside of the flow energy. 20% is, just imagine if we bring it to 30%. I'm not talking about 100%. When I go to companies, they said, let's begin with 10% increase. You will see substantial performance increase just by that, okay? Because it's so low that any increase has a significant repercussion.
So, what is the best way for people to get started?
Well, I will tell you how your people who are listening can get the 24 strands easily. Then I will ask everybody now who's listening, take your phone. Okay, take your phone and go to the text section and text me the word positive. After all, we're talking about positive psychology. Then text the word positive to the number 33777. Okay, very easy. Positive to 33777. And I'm going to send you the 20 chart with the 24 strengths of positive psychology. And a couple of questions that are going to help you discover your top 5 strengths. And a couple of questions on how to apply them to get to 18 times your flourishing. Then everybody, like you mentioned in the introduction that I am an optometrist of companies. That's basically the way I see myself, opening the eye to the strengths. And, I go to podcasts, I give lectures with that intention that everybody has exercises the right to know the top strengths. That's very easy. Michael, I used to give my website with my name and everything, who can spell my last name, Borodowski. Then I made it easy, with this called Textiful, this system of one word and an easy number. Then that's the best way. It's easy.
I like it. So, once we have our character strengths, how do we use that? How do you use that to build cultures where people feel safe and empowered to bring those strengths into everything that they do?
Well, those who text me are going to get, as part of the package, exercises on how to do it. But, I tell you a couple of them. Then you have your top 5 strengths. Okay, then I would take each day of the week and intentionally use one of them. Okay, today I'm going to creativity. I'm going to do creative things. I'm going to use creativity in what I do. Then you bring them from your unconscious use to an intentional use.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The other issue that's interesting on the other side is that when people overuse their top strengths because they feel energized and comfortable, that's then if your number one strength is honesty, and I work coaching people and they have number of honesty, and they tell me, why do people get upset with me so much at the team? And then we begin exploring how they convey their thoughts. They're too honest. They don't filter things. Okay, or when humor is your number one strength, you may say a joke in situations where are not called for a joke, but you feel legitimate and you feel yourself. Then I don't only work on developing the strength. Strengths are situational. They depend on context. The challenge is how to use them and when. The fact that you have a strength that's number one doesn't validate that you use it when you want, and that's when the people get into trouble at work.
Mm-hmm.
Because they say, how
Yes.
did they say this? How did they say this? Well, because you were overusing your strengths. Then we go into situations and we go into a role play and things like that in order to know how to contextualize them and use them in the best way.
Yes. And even while I would say humor is useful in every situation. The way to deploy humor is definitely context sensitive.
I think all of them are context.
That would be
Every
true.
one of the
Yes.
24, they are all contextual. You have to learn to read the room, to read the situation, to read the people you work with and you lead. Okay, we are readers, and our mind writes a story internally sometimes, or many times, that is different from the external reality. You need to exercise some kind of mechanism by which they at least approximate one to the other.
Yes. When we are using our strengths appropriately, we are showing a way forward and offering to help people there, or to help them find where they want to move, their way forward. And when we overuse our strengths, then we start inflicting and assuming that they want to go
Right.
where we think they should go. And that, as the Shel Silverstein poem says, that's the kind of help that we could all do without.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we sustain this focus on strengths when we're at work? There's 18 things that have to get done yesterday. The top priority changes every 5 minutes, and everyone is so stressed that they can barely keep track of what keeps the lights on, let alone how to do this work that can make things so much better.
Well, I mean, when I work with workplaces, companies, foundations, organizations, they need to change the culture, not the person. It's a cultural change, from the way managers supervise to the allocation of tasks. We know today that one of the best techniques to use strengths at workplace is what is called job crafting, in which instead of having a task and sending people according to their position in the company to do the task, is the other way around. The task has to match as best as possible the strengths of the person. Usually it works the other way around. We ascribe to people roles for tasks, and then you go to this one, you go to this one. It's the other way around. Every task has to be in some way coordinated around the strengths of people, and teams has to be put together, dismantled, and put together for the task. And the manager should know the strengths of people and try as best as possible to allocate tasks that maximize the strengths. It's called job crafting. That's something that is showing tremendous results. Then we know today that this is from studies from Barbara Fredrickson, who is in Losada and Barbara Fredrickson, who are the two world experts on positivity. We know that for one negative emotion, for what, anger, disappointment, distress, for every negative emotion, you need 3 positive to equate. Then the negative is much stronger than the positive, 3 times stronger. And if you want to flourish 4 to 5 and to 6, then we know today from science that evaluations by a manager have to begin with the positive, at least 3 times positive, if you are going to bring something negative. Then you can begin a meeting with an assessment in which you fail the quarter. The report shows that's a disaster. It's going to erode trust, confidence, loyalty, motivation. Okay, even if the person is not doing great, before you get to the problem, you have to begin with a positive. If you want the person to improve, okay, you give to the person benefit of the doubt to get better. Clearly, you want to fire the person, and you're there to fire the person when you're there to fire the person. But if you think that the person can do better and improve, then you have to begin with a positive, usually by asking the person, tell me how you have used successfully your top strengths last week.
I like
Okay,
that.
that's a question that should begin the assessment.
I
Okay,
like that question.
the strengths should be known. Okay, that's a question to begin with.
I like that question because it assumes that they have, and it helps the person identify all the times that they have, even if they're certain that they've been doing horribly. It helps them find the times where they're doing wonderfully. And that is key to making every situation more happy, is finding the occurrences where we're already doing what we want to be doing.
Yep. But for that you have to relinquish power, because in the managerial leadership situation, we fall into the paradigm: if I am managing, I have to find what's wrong. I have to fix something. What is not good management if not fixing? Now, if that's a mentality, you need by necessity to find something wrong in the other. Then the dynamic begins with a negative.
And the job crafting is something that individuals can do on their own. We don't need permission from anyone else to look at the work that we've been assigned, even if we've had no say in what that is, and connect that work with what does lighten us up. There's always ways. It may not be 100% light up. It may only be 5 or 10%. That's still better than 0 or negative 20.
The answer to that is yes, but there are companies and companies. And there are cultures and cultures and organizations. Okay? If an organization wants to achieve peak performance, okay, and to compete in the AI era, which is a more flexible, dynamic, task-oriented environment, and they don't want to make adjustment towards character strengths, then they're going to be in a disadvantage. They'll
100%.
underperform. They will underperform. That's what I see.
Yes, completely agree. The more that we can do this systemically through the entire organization, the better off everyone is, and the more whatever metrics the business care about are going to shoot through the roof.
Then when I call by a company or organization, the first question is, Alfredo, where do you want to begin? This is a mess. We try different approaches. You're not the first one. We have a problem here and a problem there. My answer is always the same, no matter the situation. You begin with a workshop on strengths discovery. Okay? The workshop is only 2 hours long. Every participant leads the meeting with their top 5 strengths, a chart of how to use them, and I give a team profile of strengths. What are the strengths of the team? We work on an actual case on the workshop, using the strengths to see the difference from not using them. And already in 2 hours, the improvement is enormous. And then we work in a sustainability plan. The next step is working on a concept that I didn't mention, up to now, which is called psychological capital, psycap. We know about human capital, sociological capital, all kind of capitals. There's a new capital that came into the picture no more than 5 years ago. It's called psychological capital, and it's proven to be the cornerstone of performance.
Yeah.
Organizations, corporations that want to succeed need to invest in 4 capacities: confidence, hope, optimism, and resilience. Okay, we have study after study at the highest level that those are the 4 components after you know your strengths of peak performance. I'm going to repeat: self-confidence, confidence of self-efficiency, call it both ways, that you can do it. You feel you can do it. Hope, optimism, and resilience. Then that's the second phase. When you know the strengths, you work on a increasing of the 4 components. And I tell you, everything moves towards performance, better culture, less toxicity. And then the third stage, you work on purpose. When you put positivity, meaning strengths, plus psychological capital, plus purpose, you achieve peak performance. It's a formula. I've seen it working over and over and over, no matter the situation the company's in.
When leaders say, "This all sounds great, Alfredo, but prove to me that this is going to move the company forward, then I'm going to get a return on this investment." How do you answer that?
Look, I could spend the rest of our podcast, which I will not do, with study after study, but the number one labs in the country, McKinsey, etc., showing. And also we know that's how did Microsoft go to where I forgot Nandala, what's it, the new CEO, the CEO now, he created a policy psychology plan for Microsoft. Microsoft was falling apart when he took, I think, 2014, okay? And now it's one of the most prosperous organizations. They did a positive psychology lift up, okay? Google did the same with the Project Aristotle, in which they created a culture of teams based on psychological safety, which is also a component of positive psychology. SodaStream, okay, who became a sensation overnight on selling the entire globe pressurized devices for soda, okay? How did they do it? They called a team of positive psychologists to create the culture it has. I can tell you, company after company after company who are the most successful one have been applying these principles.
Mhm.
Then in some way this is not new. It's new and it's not new. This is only 20 years old. Okay, it's a new science. Positive psychology was created in 1998, and then it developed into organizational positive psychology. It took a few more years, but it has been used by the top companies. It has not filtered into many of the smaller companies or more traditional companies. But I'm writing a book now. It's coming, hopefully, being launched in January. The name of the book is The Human Upgrade,
I love it.
the new resilient leadership for peak performance in the AI era. And on each chapter I write, I have cases from corporations applying positive psychology. Okay? And the list are known corporations, the best in the world, and the people still explaining their success because they have a good business plan, they got a good distribution chain, they have a good leadership program. No. If you look deep, they all had a cultural positive psychology program. It was a character strengths program. And the other things developed out of that. And it was intentionally the CEOs of those companies talk about character strengths. Okay. And that's the secret, which because corporations and MBAs don't study positive psychology, don't study the art of narrative in leadership, how to talk, the power of narrative. They study none of this. Neither in more executive coach programs, they don't study any of this. Then you have to be smart, know out of the box. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You have to understand how the big companies, the most successful, are doing it, and not to look in the wrong place, which is their programmatic way, but their cultural way, of which the programmatic way is a reflection, is the other way around. Then the book is AI revolution is bringing problems of uncertainty, disorientation, anxiety, and I am using positive psychology as a tool to make a transition into the AI world at companies, preserving human upgrade and peak performance. And there's a chapter on what is the leadership, the leadership from this, how the leadership is different, should be different, how teams are made. Okay, what is psychological capital to be applied today? What are strengths to be applied today to the challenge of AR? I think that's the next frontier. Not the next frontier, that's now. That's now.
Yes.
I've been writing this book hours and hours every day because it's needed. I don't have the final word, but I have the methodology. And that's what I'm hearing from companies when I go. That's the urgency.
Yes, I believe it. You've developed a nicely structured way to shift culture up and to the right in a way that focuses on the humanity of the company and its employees rather than any of the mechanical details involved in the company and what it does and what it builds and what it creates. That I agree. That is sorely needed these days.
That's the foundation. The premise of the book is that you can be nice and successful.
That's a great summary.
But I bring it a step further. You have to be nice to be successful.
Yes.
Because we know today that a person who works happy, who works feeling that is on the flow, that works respected, performs better. Okay, then to be nice pays. I would like everybody to be nice because it's good to be nice. But you ask me about results at businesses, and businesses need results. Well, you have to be nice because performance increases. Okay, I will show you that. Okay, then there is a chapter in the book, which I also do on my workshops, about the myths that destroy companies. And there are some myths such as, I mentioned some of them that I feel company after company falls, even if they tell you we don't do them. I spend 1 hour at the company and I see them in operation. Then one of them, that fixing is stronger than nourishing. Okay, and we know it doesn't. Okay, we have to move from the culture of fixing to a culture of nourishing. The other one is that if we find the weak link, we are going to improve. That creates blame, fear, and in team dynamics, the one who look to be the weak link, actually, they are strong in other things. Okay, that's the complexity of team dynamics. Somebody who doesn't produce a lot may be sustaining the motivation and humor of the team. And that's important for performance. The other one, that pressure brings results. We know that it doesn't. Okay, resilience brings results, but no pressure. And companies confuse resilience and pressure. They think that resilience comes out of pressure, and we know that it doesn't actually. Resilience comes out of trust. And I work with cultures to break that equation, which is I mean, everywhere I see it. Okay, then there are all these modalities at companies that are operating the culture that we inherited from childhood. If you don't suffer, you don't succeed. Who is the weak link on the sport team? Okay, fix it. That is better than nourishing, faster, to the point. And all those are tremendous obstacles to performance. Then I spend a full chapter in the book debunking with science and studies and examples all these myths.
What you said, that the weak link is really someone who is being misapplied, rings true to me. Yet it's all a matter of perspective. We're all a weak link for someone who doesn't understand the value that we bring. If someone isn't performing up to expectations, they may not want to be there, which is often, again, a misapplication of their strengths. And it's often the case, I find, that we haven't tried to apply their strengths to the work that we have doing. We say, you don't work the way I do, therefore you're the weak link. Rather than saying, what are you bringing that is unique to you that none of the rest of us has? And how can we apply that value to the work that we're doing to lift everyone up?
That's likely the situation that you're describing. But the same token, I tell leaders, if you give to somebody working at an organization their strengths, and you give them a strengths plan, and you create a culture where the people can express their strengths, and the person doesn't perform, then you can fire the person. Okay, then I don't want this to be taken like I am like the positivity guy, all rosy, and all goes no whatsoever. I believe that once you endow a person with the strengths and a strength plan and a strength culture, they must perform better than other companies.
Yes.
Oh yeah, then you have no excuses. I expect more performance, more commitment. Okay, if I give you all the elements and you don't perform because you are lazy or because you, whatever reason, okay, you don't buy into the idea, whatever, then you go. Okay, I want to make that clear because sometimes positive psychology is confused with laissez-faire and all goals and all positive. No whatsoever. Once you bring all the ingredients for success, You have to succeed.
Yes.
Then actually I am tougher. I am tougher than others. Don't take me and people like me who do positive psychology for easygoing. No. We're tougher. But we give you the greatest opportunity to succeed. Okay, then positive psychology is not a recipe for mediocrity, it's the opposite.
Yes. And thank you for making that clear. That this we're not saying to bring people along, whether they want to be there or not, to bring people along who are refusing to do the work they need to do to be part of the team. What we are saying is before we can kick them out for not being part of the team, we have to give them every opportunity to understand their way to be part of the team. And as you were saying earlier, to customize the team works, to take advantage of that.
Then that's 100%, but there is a limit to everything. You give all
Absolutely.
the opportunities, you give corrective direction, you give opportunities, you give tools, but at the end of the day, something that you said, at the end of the day, is the person doing it and taking responsibility for the journey. That's a personal choice.
How do you use all of this to help people find their way through the change, uncertainty, and overwhelm that seems to be what life is these days?
I mean, look, once you know your strengths, you feel energized. I mean, usually what happens with people, I give people the strength results. They take an instrument that measures the strengths, and they see the top five. And I ask, to in the workshop, tell me the first feeling they experience, and the answers are repeated: validation, authenticity, motivation, and then the next natural question is, what do I do with them? Everybody understands that these are strengths to be applied. It goes naturally. Knowing your strengths move you to execution. I don't have even to bring it to the table. The teams say, what do we do with it? Then once you know your strengths, you immediately move into motion, and motion creates energy. We know that, like a turbine. Then they are energetic. They are not just to know, they are to execute. You feel that you need to execute them.
For people who want to skip right past texting you and getting the assessment and get right into working with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
The best look, when they do positive at 3777, one thing they're going to see at the end is scroll down is my calendar, and I always give half an hour, just get to know each other and ask questions. Okay, no strings attached. For those who want to see all my workshops and all my keynotes and more about me and when the book is going to be released and how to get it, go to my website. You already know the first word of my website. Everybody who's listening is positive. Then it's positive AB, Alfredo Borodowski, very easy, positiveab.com.
That's great. And
Then
we'll
if you
have,
go to positiveab.com, and there you have my calendar too, and let's talk. I love it. By the way, when you see my name there on my website or on the page that I send you with the character strengths, I am a LinkedIn fanatic. Then if you contact me on LinkedIn and said, I heard, with Michael and the common leadership, I love what you said. I have a question. I would immediately accept, and I love to connect on LinkedIn.
that's great. And we'll have all those links in the show notes. What would you like to leave our audience with today, Alfredo?
Yeah, look, you have a right You have them already. You have your character strengths. You don't have to work for them. Are in you, okay? Are part innate and part developed by you because that's the way you feel who you are. But one thing is to go through life applying them by inertia, and another way is applying them by intention. The difference is abysmal. Get them. Don't have to work for them. Is to open your eyes. And by knowing them, you're going to flourish 9 times more. By applying them, 18 times more. Is the best deal in town. I can't think about a better deal.
Sounds great. Thank you, Alfredo, for being with us today. This wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Michael. I enjoy it. And thank you, everybody listening.
And thank you, audience, for joining us today. Alfredo and I would love to know, what is your favorite strength? Thanks, and have a great day.